Without bias, without a fear of contradiction, Saka is not a world-class player. Chelsea failing to get an early goal in the first half was part of the downfall. The worst decision that the Ineos group made was retaining Eric Ten Hag in his position.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Pulse Sports Recap. My name is Mark Kinyanjui or Kinyawai, and I am joined by my esteemed co-host Evans Osuru, the stout Chelsea supporter. Now Evans, I saw you guys should have won that game against Forest, but Noni Madueke missed at least 4 chances. Yes, he scored a goal, but he easily could have scored at least 5 goals on that day, even with the dramatic 13 minutes of added time added. Give me your thoughts on the situation at hand and how you felt after the game.
Yes, thank you. I believe Chelsea had everything under control, but a lapse in concentration saw Nottingham Forest take the lead under unfamiliar circumstances. But I believe Chelsea should have won that match because looking at the chances created, Noni Madueke wasted several chances that could have actually gave Chelsea maximum points against Nottingham Forest. But in the end, Chelsea settled for a draw. But I think overall, as a whole, Chelsea did not play according to their script, because you look at the isolated nature of Nicholas Jackson, and Palmer was not given the chances to roam and create as he normally does.
But if you really think about it, and I was telling you off air that for me Chelsea are the most entertaining team to watch this season, in terms of if you look at the quality of the players, especially on the flanks that you guys have on your books. You have different variety for different game states. Someone like Jadon Sancho, Noni Madueke, and even Cole Palmer are players that are very good against low block teams because they have that unpredictable nature of unlocking defenses with their 1v1 capabilities. And then you also have players like João Felix as well, who can make an impact off the bench. And you also have players like Pedro Neto, who can use their pace in counter-attacking situations. And last evening when I watched that game, you guys should have obliterated Forest by more than at least 4 goals or something. I know Noni Madueke was particularly wasteful. I, for a start, had him on my Fantasy Premier League, and I was so livid at him in the fact that he had the most clearest of chances to score goals. But then again, like you rightly put it, Nicholas Jackson was kind of isolated. But I like the fact that he was at least dropping deep to try and create space for other players. But at the end of it all, I feel like those are 2 points dropped for you guys. Because you guys, I feel like as much as you are defensively shaky and the fact that you will concede chances, I feel like you guys are the type that will win most of your games by at least the margin of most of your games will be 2-1, 3-2, 4-2, like we saw against Brighton when Cole Palmer was literally toying with that defense and even scored 4 goals in the end. But I feel like all in all, you guys don't have a reason to panic as long as you can start taking advantage of your chances. What do you think of that situation in terms of your profligacy?
I think the players alongside the manager are trying, to be specific, the coach is trying to look at his best 11. He's trying to look at the best way to play, especially playing from the back. That it has never been a tradition of Chelsea trying to play from the back, but under Maresca we are seeing now a Chelsea back 4 that lacks experience, trying now to get the grips of the rigors of playing in the top tier. But I believe profligacy was witnessed against Nottingham Forest for a very simple reason. Chelsea came into that match on the back of 3 winnings on the bounce. So it was a matter of, can we make it 4? Can we go and get an early goal? Chelsea failing to get an early goal in the first half was part of the downfall, because looking at the amount of chances they created and nothing came to fruition, I believe it's a matter of now that the international break has come, is about to come. I believe it's high time Maresca goes back to the drawing board and look at what needs to be done, such that when Chelsea take on Liverpool after the international break, they know exactly how they are going to deal with the red-hot Liverpool at Anfield. But the most worrying thing concerning Chelsea is they are conceding some silly goals,
Exactly.
giving silly chances to opponents that don't even deserve to score a goal against Chelsea.
And moving forwards, of course, we saw my esteemed Arsenal play against Southampton. I feel like Arsenal are giving away too many chances, especially, and they're giving the opposition 15 to 20 minutes of control every match, and I don't think it's sustainable. The team had to go down against Southampton for them to start waking up. Yes, I understand the nature of the international break and the fact that their back-to-back games means Arteta had to rotate. But at the same time, I feel like that is not sustainable. And moving forwards, I feel like Arsenal, as much as they are a team that, as much as Arsenal are a team that won't really struggle against the big six sides, against this lesser opposition that tend to go underestimated, for lack of better words, I feel like they are going to be surprised sooner or later. And that is something I feel like Arteta needs to work on moving forwards. What did you make of that game?
I watched that game and it was exciting, first of all, to see Southampton grab a surprise lead before Arsenal equalized 3 minutes later. But all said and done, I believe Arsenal have shown some sort of shakiness defensively if the last 3 matches is anything to go by. Because they conceded 2 against City, of course, I don't blame them because City is our opponent. They conceded again against... they conceded in their 3-2, in their 4-2 win against... Leicester City. Then lately they won 3-1, coming from a goal down and winning 3-1 against Southampton. That tells you that in the last 2 matches, Arsenal have conceded goals against lesser opposition. Defensively, Saliba and Gabriel have done a great job, but there are gaps in between that needs to be filled. I believe the strategy that manager Mikel Arteta has deployed this season is also part of the reason why Arsenal are conceding too many chances to the opposition, because Arsenal are playing with a defensive strategy.
And I think my takeaways from that game were the fact that Gabriel Martinelli looks like he's lost his pace. In the sense that he can hardly outpace any of his fullbacks nowadays. I feel like Gabriel, as much as he's solid defensively, he's still someone that is shaky on the ball and really needs to watch out for Calafiori the moment he's going to settle, because Arteta has a preference for players who can bring it out from the back. And at the same time, I also noticed that Bukayo Saka was kind of isolated. And for me, as much as he scored a goal and registered 2 assists, he still has a way before he becomes world class. Because yes, don't get me wrong, I feel like I am an Arsenal fan myself. And I believe that Bukayo Saka is an elite player. But for me, you cannot go on spells of like 10 games without scoring goals and then score the occasional goal and still expect to be called world class. You have to be someone that really makes a difference every match. And I'll give an example of Gareth Bale in his last season at Tottenham Hotspur. He couldn't stop scoring and took that form to Real Madrid. Someone like Salah will always find a way to find the back of the net on a regular basis. Someone like Haaland, Ronaldo, Messi, these are players that, as much as you know they'll make a difference for you on the ball, they are players who will make the difference for you in terms of scoring goals, assisting, which is what wins you matches at the end of the day. And that is what, to me, a world-class player is. So for me, he still has a way to go before he becomes world-class, but he is an elite player. What do you think of that?
I believe for one to be called a world-class player or an elite player for that matter, there needs to be some sort of consistency. As you've said, there are leaps and bounds that Bukayo Saka needs to go through before being pronounced or declared a world-class player, because he tends to go off. He tends to become off color. Sometimes he switches off completely in matches that you would have expected him to be the shining light in certain situations. But that hasn't happened in the last couple of matches. Him scoring and giving 2 assists just the other day doesn't really give him the upper hand of being called a world-class player. For me, I believe if he goes on a consistent run, not only in terms of scoring, giving his all for the team, defensively, attacking-wise, giving the assist, and all the input that is needed for one to become a world-class player, then he comes into the picture or in contention of being called a world-class player.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm concerned, without bias, without fear of contradiction, Saka is not a world-class player.
And for me, I think there are only 7 world-class players in the Premier League, several elite players below him, and then several good and very good players. But for me, that world-class title has to be earned if he can keep scoring and assisting. And we know he can make the difference. He has the quality to, but he needs to add that to his game consistently for us to start considering him a world-class player. And last but not least, of course, Manchester United can hardly avoid the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Of course, Eric Ten Hag's job is on the line. We know that there are rumors that Thomas Tuchel could be in line to replace him if the board deems his performances and services unsatisfactory. Of course, he spoke after the match against Aston Villa and said that they looked like a team. They kept clean sheets. We saw the fact that he decided to make radical changes, brought back Maguire and a 30-something-year-old Evans back into the fold after the 2 prime centre-backs that he asked for himself, that is Lisandro Martinez and Matthias de Ligt, decided to bench them again, and they still came on as substitutes after unsatisfactory performances. What do you think of that situation regarding the Man United job? Should he still keep his job, or do you think that it's time they employed someone else?
I believe there was the decision that the Ineos group made, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe in particular was retaining Eric Ten Hag in his position, because you remember Manchester United conducted some interviews specifically for Thomas Tuchel to take over as head coach, but Tuchel turned down the offer due to his own reasons. Then United opted to allow Ten Hag continue with the so-called project. But what was meant to be the perfect fit for United this season, at least to show us that their team back on track, has been one of the worst seasons to date, because the last 3, 4, 5 matches, there has been inconsistency in their performance. You remember the previous week, they were beaten 3-0 by Spurs. Then in midweek, they drew 3-3 with FC Porto. And just yesterday, they managed to record their first clean sheet in as many as 3 matches by registering a draw against Aston Villa. That tells you that in as much as we've seen Manchester United at their weakest point, their performances this season are still worrying. And for me, I think it is high time the management of United need to act as quick as possible. The 2-week international break has given the board a breather to consider the options, because I believe Thomas Tuchel, if at all the rumors doing rounds that he could be the next big coach at United, can take over, that will be a big relief, a great relief to the squad, because Manchester looks like a team that is lost. Ten Hag has been given a chance to stabilize things, but the 3 years he has been at the helm, Manchester seems like a team that is regressing, not progressing.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think Man United have 2 big issues. The first one I'll talk about tactically. For me, I feel like they still need to address their midfield situation, because as much as they want to try and attack and press higher up the pitch, of course they leave gaps that are exploited by the opposition, like we saw against Porto. I feel like it's too easy to blame the defenders. I don't think the defenders are fully to blame, because they still have at least the knowledge and capability to play in a high line. But then when you have midfielders that are not positionally aware, it becomes difficult to stop the gaps that they create in the midfield, and at the end of the day they end up being exploited. I feel like for them to work, they need a midfield general who can do it all, can help build the play from the back while receiving from deep, and also at the same time can also be a presence without the ball. That is something they need to address. If they want short-term results, I feel what they need to do, I think Man United is a team where politics dominate everything, and they don't have a structured way of recruitment, that they need a manager like Carlo Ancelotti or Zinedine Zidane, someone who is ordered by Fiorentino Perez to use what he has, but somehow find a way to maximize on that, while at the same time using their excellent man management skills to get 150% out of a player that can perform at 100%. I think those are the two things they need to do. By bringing Thomas Tuchel, I think for me, Thomas Tuchel, as much as he's a good tactician, anytime politics come in the way, club politics come in the way, even by his own admission, things tend to go haywire. We saw against Chelsea, politics came in the way, he had to leave. Borussia Dortmund, the same thing happened. Bayern Munich, where it's an extremely political club, the same thing happened. So for me, I feel what they need to do is, they need to, if they're to stick by Ten Hag, they need to stick by him and then give him the proper midfield general that he wants in January for them to start having consistent results. If they want a short-term gap, I think what they need to do is look for a manager of such a skill set. Maybe even someone like Ruud van Nistelrooy, who is the assistant, could be the short-term solution, but we do not know. But anyway, that's all we have in store for you today, guys. Of course, keep watching and keep subscribing to Pulse Sports Kenya. That's it, guys. I've been your host, Mark Kinyanjui, or Kenya Y.
This is Ivan Sosuru, aka Chelsea diehard, Chelsea chairman. See you next time.
Till next time, guys. Out.
Cheers.